Hi guys, my name is G-mariam, and today I will be discussing the Restorative Justice for Oakland Youth project. Restorative justice is a healing and rehabilitation-based practice that seeks to empower people to address the harms, needs, and obligations that arise when a crime has been committed. And it does this by actively engaging victims, offenders, and members of their respective community systems to repair harm and prevent reoffending. Overall, it focuses on mending broken relationships to create a better future. And this is a fundamental shift in the way that we think and do justice, and a departure from our current system that really focuses on punishment. Just to reiterate what I was saying, here are some of the basic practices of restorative justice, and I encourage you guys to pause the video and read through these. Restorative Justice for Oakland Youth was founded in 2005 in Oakland, California as a response to conflict in Black and Brown communities, and as a result, Oakland Unified School District started to institute RJOY programs. So RJOY creates a statewide network for restorative justice practitioners, educators, and administrators, and it works to interrupt cycles of youth violence, incarceration, and wasted lives. And it does this by establishing an underlying school climate that is restorative and focuses on ways to allow youth to see the harm that they've caused, to promote learning and growth. This allows students to interact with one another, their teachers, and their school staff in a constructive and respectful way. Restorative Justice for Oakland Youth implements the restorative process through 3 tiers, the first being prevention, the second intervention, and the third is reintegration. Here's a list of programs identified with restorative justice, and you can take a look at the list here, but the main one I want to focus on is peacemaking or healing circles. Peacemaking circles are rooted in Indigenous practices, and this form of restorative justice involves a face-to-face, open dialogue process that is focused on personal accountability and reparations. In the case of schools, students who have committed offenses have to face the students they have harmed, their parents, and other community members. And they use this circle process to build and strengthen pro-social behavior. Elements of a peacemaking circle include physically sitting in a circle, a facilitator, a centerpiece, and a talking piece. And the goal of a peacemaking circle is to build a strong and self-governing sense of community based on respect, shared values, and dialogue. And the end goal is to arrive at a mutually beneficial outcome that addresses the harm the victim has suffered, explores what unmet needs might the perpetrator have caused such harm, and ensures that there is support for both of their parties. A specific example of a peacemaking circle is demonstrated through the program Restorative Justice for Oakland Youth. In 2013, Cedric, an African-American 16-year-old, was required to participate in a restorative justice circle. And it was a condition of his acceptance back into school in Oakland because he spent 10 months in juvenile justice camp for bringing a loaded gun to his previous school, and it actually went off during class. Cedric admitted that he really did not want to participate, but he had to. People included were his parents, the school's principal, a psychologist, teachers, and peer mentors. And they were required to talk about the pain that Cedric had caused other people or the deprivation and harm that he had experienced himself. In the circle, it was revealed that Cedric felt driven to commit these crimes because his mother was short with money for rent. The adults in the room encouraged Cedric and expressed their love and support, and they urged him to accept their help and tell them what he needed to do better. In the closing round of the circle, the RJOY school coordinator led the group in writing out a life plan for Cedric. Schools can implement restorative justice through gradually introducing restorative practices to replace retributive practices, which will decrease behavior incidents. And here I've included a diagram of the stepping stones to create a restorative school that includes 12 steps. Some implementation challenges and issues associated with restorative justice include school funding and time. School-wide or system-wide restorative justice takes the full commitment of everyone involved in the education process: teachers, administrators, students, and parents. Schools can spend months or even years fully rolling out the program, so it's not the right option for everyone, and it can't be instituted overnight. Also, some people think that it is an overcorrection of zero-tolerance discipline and corporal punishment. Teachers are blamed for not sufficiently engaging disruptive students. It leads to dysfunctional classroom relations. It is difficult to assess when students feign remorse and play the system. Reintegrating into the community is not always an incentive. Some students prefer to stick within their own peer network. It trivializes misbehavior, and it does not address the fundamental inequalities that lead to the offending. Some advantages of restorative justice in schools includes that it focuses on behavior and impact as opposed to the person and their character. It teaches responsibility and accountability. It teaches remorse and restitution. It builds social skills and capacity, teaches effective communication, promotes trust, creates a safe learning environment that leads to more effective teaching, develops a collaborative community, leads to less suspensions and expulsions, and leads to a drop in juvenile crime and detention. And if you look at this graphic here, it shows the difference between a zero-tolerance education system and a restorative practice-based education system, which leads to much better results. Overall, it's very important to note that restorative justice has had remarkable success in shifting the way that justice is carried out to better benefit the affected parties of the community as a whole. And RJOY specifically has received national recognition, trained thousands of restorative justice advocates, has had schools budget $3,000 for their programs, and they've seen a reduction in suspensions and expulsions and an increase in GPA. So, restorative justice is a reparative, inclusive, and balanced philosophy, and it can be practiced anywhere that we should make human connections, and I think it should definitely be implemented more.